Dave Battle here with a review and install of the BlackVue DR500 Full HD dash cam. In combination with the PowerMagic Pro, we're going to be installing it in a 2011 Toyota Prius. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's inside the box. You immediately see the camera itself, nicely displayed. It's got a nice little cover for the lens and some plastic covering that we'll take off before install. It's also got an adhesive mount which goes on your windshield. Conveniently enough, there's a little lock button so that once you have it installed and you want to take the camera with you to keep people from stealing it, or you just want to throw it in the glove box, that's an option. You just simply push that in and it locks. And then to adjust the camera itself, it's also quite simple. You just rotate the camera. On this side, we've got the Wi-Fi power for when you want to connect to your iOS or Android device to see the image that you're currently capturing or that you've already stored in the memory card. You've also got your power supply input there. That's the majority of the install, and that's what we'll be doing here today as we try to discreetly put that wire behind the scenes. If you open this up, then you will see the micro SD card. With the BlackVue, it comes with a 16 gig or a 32 gig card. On this side, you have an indicator that the Wi-Fi is on, which is always helpful, so you know that you're actually connected. And then you've also got a little sensor, a little motion sensor. When you swipe your hand by it, it allows you to turn the audio recording on and off in a very simple fashion, and it gives you an audio confirmation, audio on, audio off, so that you know exactly where it is. That's the camera itself. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the package. Next up, we have our accessory pack. Open that guy up. First thing you got is your user manual. It looks like a pretty heavy-duty manual until you actually kind of open it up. It's really only about 5 pages, but it comes in 7 or 8 different languages. Next, we've got some more adhesive strips. Here's a backup adhesive strip for the one that you've already got attaching the camera to the car. I suppose it's a backup if you want to put it in a different location, or the other one goes bad for some reason or another. You've also got some smaller adhesive strips that have little clips on them that allow you to run your cable discreetly and nicely, so things look clean in the end. And then it also comes with a small USB dongle that you can plug the micro SD card into for quick access to your files. Next, you've got your power supply that you would run into your power in your car if you didn't have the PowerMagic Pro. This does work in conjunction with the PowerMagic Pro. This will run into that, which will then run into the fuse panel itself. Okay, the PowerMagic Pro. The PowerMagic Pro allows you to run your recorder while the car is off, which is handy in case somebody happens to hit your car, doesn't leave a note, you have evidence that they have hit your car. Other options are, things are just passing by and you want to capture those. That's all set up on the BlackVue, but this is what enables the power to run through for the BlackVue to kick in if you so choose. Here you've got your power that'll be running from this cable. And then you've got a on-off switch here, which is, as far as I understand, is the difference between the PowerMagic and the PowerMagic Pro, is you're able to turn this on and off as you wish. And then you've got a few switches here for configuration, which we'll talk about in a moment. Here's the power line, which will run from the BlackVue. And then we've got the yellow and red cables, which will run into our 2 separate fuses, and then a ground, and then this goes back to the PowerMagic Pro box. In the configuration here, you've got a few different options for configuring the voltage for the bottom line voltage so that this kicks off and does not consume any more power when your battery has reached a certain level, so that when you actually get back in your car you have power to run. So you've got an option for 11.8 volts or 12 volts, and if you run on a big rig you can also set it to 22.8 or 23.2. And then the last 3 switches are for configuring the timer. If you want it to run for just 6 hours, then you can have that take place, or you can run it all the way to infinity so that it just continually runs and is constantly enabled. Of course, if the 12 volts or 11.8 or whatever you have it set to on your car kicks in, that overrides the timer itself. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look inside the Toyota Prius and see how we're going to get this thing installed. All right, so we're obviously in the car, and we're going to see what it takes to get this thing installed. The first thing I want to do is kind of take a look at what it's going to look like possibly once this thing's installed and where it is that I want to mount this. My goal is to have this as much out of the line of sight of the driver as possible. So I'm thinking right about there is going to work. And then we'll be running the cable up through here. We'll be taking this piece off, running the cable, attaching it there with some plastic, with some adhesive, and then running along the roof line, tucked in there, running it down the A-pillar, and then there's a little hole there where it drops in and we can pull it out down to the fuse box. A couple tools that'll be handy to have while we're doing this. This is a trim removal tool. It's only a couple bucks. You can get it at Newegg or Amazon or a bunch of other places online. But it's handy because it's plastic. It's not going to hurt your trim. You can get the leverage that you need in order to get the pieces off better than you could with your fingers. And it does an effective job for a very small price. Next, we've got some foam tape, which we'll be using right at this turn point right here that we'll attach it up there so that we can turn it and run it down the roof line. Next, I've got some needle nose pliers, which I've attached some electric tape to. We're going to have to take the A-pillar off. There are two attachment points. One is right about here and another one's in the middle. The rest you just pull out with. But this first one here pops right out. It's easy enough. The next one, you have to pull it out and then you have to turn it 90 degrees in order to get it out fully, which we want to fully remove it so we have easy access to attaching the cable running down there as safely as possible. So you want some tape on there. It can be any tape, but you want to have that on there so that you don't mess up the plastic pieces and possibly rip them or tear them or do anything else that causes you to need to replace them, because that's a little more hassle than most any of us want to deal with. Next, we've got our cable ties, and these cable ties will be running down the A-pillar with the wire. The reason why we're running down the A-pillar is we're essentially following the same line that the HomeLink mirror, which I've got attached here, runs, and the directions that the HomeLink mirror has suggest that you run it. So we'll be running it down there, following that cable, and attaching it along the way, making sure it's secure and out of the way of the airbag. Next, we've got a multimeter, and the multimeter obviously is for picking out the fuses that we're going to be attaching the yellow and red cable to. And I've got a pretty good idea of where we're going to land on that, but we'll go ahead and double check those and make sure that's exactly where we want to be with those. Then next, depending on how it is that we decide to install the cables, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You might need to pull out the fuse, and if we do that, then it's good to have a little full fuse puller. Most cars in their front engine block with the fuses that are in the engine have one of these hidden away in there, so you can look for this in there and obviously use it for underneath the steering wheel panel. So that's our plan, and we'll see how quickly we can get this accomplished. Okay, so now we're going to be mounting the camera, and my goal is to get the lens as centered as possible and this as much out of the way as I possibly can. So I think I'm going to end up right about here. You're going to want to make sure you wipe down your windshield. There's no gunk on that at all, and that you're all cleaned up there. And then we'll just simply take the adhesive cover off and we will mount it. Hopefully centered and looking nice. Let's see what we end up with here. Apply some good pressure, make sure it attaches. It's a warm day, so hopefully it gets some good stick and doesn't slide on us at all. Seems to be pretty good. So we've got that attached. We can obviously still take this out at any time. I've still got the plastic covering on this, so we'll have to pop it off in order to take that off easily enough. But it's on there, and next we'll be taking off the plastic piece up there and running the cable. So now that we've got the camera mounted, we know where we're going to be coming from. We're going to go ahead and take our handy dandy trim tool and just get it underneath there a little bit, give it a little pull, come underneath this side, give it a little pull, and it'll simply pop right off. Nothing to be scared of there. Pops right out. We can see where our other cable is running. It's got some foam tape there as well. And we'll simply run ours up there, and then again, like I said, across the roof line. and hopefully it'll be pretty simple and clean. Next, we'll go to the A-pillar and take that off and let you see how that one comes apart. Okay, so again, we're going to be taking our handy dandy trim tooler. This time we're going to use it a little bit differently. We're going to get it just enough out that we can get our finger behind it, and then it's probably a little bit easier just to give a little tug right there, and then you'll see that it's popped out. Again, you don't want to pull too hard at this point because you've got one over here that you need to turn with your needle nose pliers in order to safely remove it. If you pull it too hard, you're going to have to replace that piece. So now that we've got the piece removed partially there, what we're going to be doing is grabbing this little black guy right here, turning it so it just pops out just like that. Simple enough. And then all you do is give this a little tug. Doesn't always feel like it wants to come, but it does eventually. And then we've got that out. So what you can see here, this guy simply turns like that. Inside this piece right here just simply locks into place. It's pretty simple, but you could do some pretty good damage if you gave it a good tug. You'd have to replace this piece right here. Probably not an expensive piece, but a pain nonetheless. So we'll put that aside. And then now I think we can go ahead and begin running our cable. Again, we're just going to run it right down here, attach it probably at some of the same places that you see the HomeLink one attached at, and I'll be able to drop it right down in that hole and go from there. Okay, so what I've gone ahead and already done is I've run the cable, the BlackVue cable, the power cable that came with the actual recorder. I already run it down in a little hole down here. I wanted to get that down there, make sure it was going to fit. I pulled it through to the other side. And then we'll be able to run it from over here, pull the slack out, and then lock it down. So what we'll probably start with is just simply plugging this into the camera and seeing where it is we want it to land. I've got a little hidden thing here or a little thing for hiding wires for the HomeLink, and I'll probably run it through that as best I can. And then I'm going to use some of the adhesive strips to go ahead and lock it in place so that it's not floating around up there. So we'll go ahead and give that a go. And it's pretty well out of our way. So next, after that, we're going to grab our adhesive tape. And we will lock down the wire right over here. So we've got this running up here. Hopefully that'll stay nicely there. Probably going to run it right in front of the other cable that's there. Best we can, turn that corner so it's snug up against that. And then let's check our wires again. This will hold better once that plastic piece is back in. That looks pretty good right there. And then all we have to do is run it along the roof line. And then we're over here again. So we will go ahead and pull it through. This little pull, try to lead it as best you can. Once we've got the majority of it down there, take a little closer look and double check everything, make sure it looks clean. Okay, so now that we've got it pretty well threaded through, we can go ahead and fasten it down. We've checked it over by the mirror, it's still looking good there. So I'm going to use the same points that the HomeLink mirror was installed at with the zip ties, the cable ties, and I'm going to simply lock it down. Okay, so that is through, and the rest of our work will be down below with the fuse box. Obviously we have to put everything back together, but that should be pretty quick and painless. Okay, so now we're underneath the driver's side of the car where we just pulled the cable through that will be plugging into the PowerMagic Pro, and then the PowerMagic Pro into the fuse box here, and we'll then have our power. In the Toyota Prius, what we're looking at right now, we're directly behind the emergency brake, and all you have to do is simply pull that to reveal your fuses. You've got this handy dandy little guide for what is what. And then we will take our multimeter. They come in a variety. This one, you have two prongs, black and a red. The black you attach to a ground by simply touching it to a bolt. And at the same time, then you take your red wire and select the different fuses to see what is live. So we will go ahead and do that. I can't show you the multimeter at the same time I'm doing this, but you can trust me on it. So, now we will search around a little bit. You simply tap on that side, touching to the power. Okay, so these are dormant right here, and these are live. This is door RR, so door right rear, and this is IG number 1. And so this will be my red cable. Number 10 will be my red cable because this one is not on currently, and this one is live. This one is supplying power, and this will be our yellow cable. So with that in mind, we will go ahead and take our fuse puller and take that out. We're going to be installing the power, the yellow cable in this case, on the right side of the fuse, so where the 5 on this, reading it left to right. And then I've just laid it over top of that, and then we will just simply slide it back into place as best we can without allowing that to come undone. Just push that in there. It's pretty snug. And we'll do the same thing with the red cable. Okay, so now that we've got the right one wrapped, we can do the same thing. Simply push that in there. Got it in. Snug, snug. Now all that's left to do is we're taking our ground and we'll be attaching that to one of the bolts that's sitting directly behind the fuse box here. Okay, so we've got all our cables neatly put together. I plugged in the cigarette lighter into the PowerMagic Pro on the other end of this, plugged this guy in. We grounded it, and you can see light turning on and off. That means we have power when the car is not on, so that's a good sign. And then for the Prius, what I went ahead and did, there's a convenient little hole right through here for whatever reason. I ran the cables through there, and I plan on mounting this right about here like this. So I have access to it, but I don't have to look at it necessarily. And then I'll pull the cables through taut on the other side and attach them somewhere, probably with some more of my cable ties, just to make sure they're not in the way of any of the pedals. We don't want to have anything bad happen there. So that's the plan, and we'll hopefully get this thing done in the next few minutes here. Okay, so now that we've got a power switch working down there, all the wires are tucked away and not in any danger of causing a problem. We see that they're secure here. I started putting this panel back on. All we have to do here is make sure, again, grab our needle nose pliers with the rubber on the end, or the, from the tape. Again, placing that in there and then turning that so that it then fits in just right, locks into place. And then we should be able to lock that in. think we're good there. We'll simply grab our plate here and match up the holes, lock that in, push that up, make sure every little cable is tucked in the way we want it, and then I think we're good to go. We'll test it out. I'll show you a little preview of what the video images look like. I'll show you how the app interacts, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we're out driving around, checking out the audio and video capabilities of the BlackVue, just seeing what kind of resolution. I've got it set to the highest resolution here right now. I've been pretty happy with it in the footage that I've reviewed so far. The audio recording is okay. It's not fantastic, as you can hear right now. It picks up the information, and that's good. It's not broadcast quality, that's for sure, but you know, it certainly does the job. The video, on the other hand, I think is fantastic. It picks up all the detail that you would hope to pick up. You can clearly make out license plates at a reasonable distance, and other various things that as you come in closer contact with them, you can see them in sharp detail. So I've been pretty pleased with that so far, and I wanted to give you a chance to kind of see what you could expect if you install a BlackVue for yourself. One thing to be aware of is the camera itself. It's good to make sure that it's pointed somewhat middle down, so that you're not pointing towards the sky. If you point towards the sky, it's going to try to compensate for the extra light, especially on an extra cloudy day. It's going to get confused, and it's just easier and better. You'll get a better picture if you keep it pointed partially down. That's the only place you're going to want the information anyways. So anyways, take a look, hope you enjoy, and we'll wrap this thing up. Hopefully you enjoyed that little drive around. That gave you a taste of what you can expect with the BlackVue dash cam. The last thing we'll briefly touch on is the app itself. The first thing you want to do when you get in the car is make sure that the Wi-Fi is on, and you'll see that on the other side of the camera there. When you go into your settings for your connection on your device, you'll simply select the DR500GW. The password for it is BlackVue, all lowercase. That should get you in. Once you're connected to that, you simply go into the BlackVue app. That'll launch. It gives you a little warning at the beginning, letting you know that you shouldn't do this while driving. From there, you can view previously recorded videos, stream them, view them, show them to anybody that you care to pass them along to. You can also view a live shot of what the camera is seeing at that moment. More importantly, you can set up all your settings, change things like kilometers per hour versus miles per hour. You can adjust your time zone, make sure you're recording at the right time zone. Lots of different options in there, including turning off audio cues and features like that you may or may not want bothering you or annoying you whenever it turns on and off. So anyways, the app itself is functional, it's good, it's handy, and I like being able to interact with it. At any point that you want to pop out the SD card, take them inside and download them, you can access all these functions, including your settings, which you can adjust and update the firmware with. Load that SD card, that micro SD card, into your computer and run it from there. Hopefully you've enjoyed the review and install, and hopefully it's been helpful to you. Thanks for your time.